Not every UFC champion was born into success. Some had to fight their way out of poverty, homelessness, and impossible odds to reach the top. These 5 fighters didn't just win championships, they overcame real struggles most people can't even imagine. This is the story of UFC champions who came from nothing and became legends. Jon Jones, from humble beginnings to UFC greatness. Jon "Bones" Jones is widely regarded as one of the greatest fighters in UFC history, but his journey to the top wasn't easy. Born in Rochester, New York, Jones grew up in a working-class family. His father was a pastor, and his family didn't have much money. Despite financial struggles, sports became his escape, and he excelled in wrestling during high school. Jones showed promise early on, but instead of following the traditional college wrestling route, he transitioned to MMA to support his family. He was still young, working odd jobs while training, but his natural talent quickly became evident. At just 21 years old, he made his UFC debut in 2008 and began dominating the competition with his unorthodox striking and elite wrestling. In 2011, Jones became the youngest UFC champion in history at just 23 years old, defeating Mauricio "Shogun" Rua for the light heavyweight title. From there, he went on to defend his belt multiple times, defeating legends like Daniel Cormier, Lyoto Machida, and Alexander Gustafsson. Despite personal controversies, Jones' journey from a struggling young athlete to a dominant UFC champion is one of perseverance, talent, and resilience. His story resonates with fans who admire his skill and legacy in the sport. Francis Ngannou, from sand mines to UFC heavyweight champion. Francis Ngannou's journey is one of the most inspiring stories in all of sports. Born in Beatty, a small village in Cameroon, Ngannou grew up in extreme poverty. His family had very little, and as a child he worked in sand mines to help support them. With limited access to education and opportunities, he dreamed of a better life and becoming a boxer like his idol, Mike Tyson. At 26, he made a life-changing decision to leave Cameroon and pursue a fighting career in Europe. The journey was brutal. He traveled through dangerous conditions, crossing multiple countries, and ended up homeless on the streets of Paris, France. With no money, food, or a place to stay, he lived in a parking garage while searching for opportunities. Ngannou eventually found an MMA gym that allowed him to train for free. His raw power and athleticism were undeniable, and within just a few years, he made his way to the UFC. His knockout power became legendary, and after years of struggle, he fulfilled his dream by knocking out Stipe Miocic in 2021 to become the UFC heavyweight champion. Ngannou's story of overcoming poverty, homelessness, and relentless obstacles has made him one of the most respected and beloved fighters in MMA history. Charles Oliveira, from favela struggles to UFC champion. Charles "Du Bronx" Oliveira's story is one of perseverance, faith, and resilience. Born in the favelas of Guarujá, Brazil, Oliveira grew up in deep poverty. His family struggled to afford basic necessities, and as a child, he often had to borrow shoes just to attend training. To make things even harder, Oliveira was diagnosed with a severe medical condition affecting his legs, which doctors feared would prevent him from playing sports. Despite the setbacks, he refused to give up and found solace in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, BJJ. Through sheer determination, he became a BJJ prodigy, eventually transitioning to MMA. When Oliveira joined the UFC in 2010 at just 20 years old, his career was full of ups and downs. He suffered multiple losses, and many doubted whether he could ever be a champion. However, he never stopped improving and grinding his way through the lightweight division. After a decade of setbacks, Oliveira silenced the doubters in 2021 when he knocked out Michael Chandler to win the UFC lightweight championship. His emotional victory, after years of struggle, resonated deeply with fans. Oliveira's journey from a sickly child in a poor Brazilian favela to UFC champion is proof that hard work and perseverance can overcome any challenge. Israel Adesanya, from bullying to UFC middleweight champion. Israel, the last style bender, Adesanya was born in Lagos, Nigeria, and grew up in a modest household. His parents wanted a better future for their children, so they moved to New Zealand when Israel was 10 years old. However, life in a new country wasn't easy. Adesanya was bullied in school for being different, which deeply affected his confidence and self-esteem. Instead of letting the bullying break him, he found an outlet in martial arts. He first trained in kickboxing, eventually amassing an incredible 75-5 record before transitioning to MMA. Despite his striking talent, Adesanya struggled financially in the early days of his career, often sleeping in his gym and barely making enough money to survive. His big break came when he joined the UFC in 2018. With his unique fighting style, charisma, and confidence, he quickly became a fan favorite. In just under 2 years, he won the UFC middleweight championship by defeating Robert Whittaker in 2019. Adesanya defended his title multiple times and became one of the most dominant and popular champions in UFC history. His journey from an outcast kid to a global superstar serves as an inspiration to many, proving that self-belief and hard work can turn adversity into greatness. Brandon Moreno, from Tijuana, struggles to Mexico's first UFC champion. Brandon, the assassin baby, Moreno grew up in Tijuana, Mexico, in a struggling family that ran a piñata business. Life wasn't easy, his family didn't have much money, and at one point, he considered becoming a lawyer to help support them. But his true passion was martial arts, so he started training in MMA at just 12 years old. Despite his talent, Moreno faced countless obstacles on his way to the top. When he first entered the UFC in 2016, he was seen as an underdog. After a few losses, he was cut from the promotion in 2018, leaving him devastated and unsure of his future. But instead of giving up, Moreno kept training and fighting in smaller organizations, proving himself once again. His hard work paid off when he was re-signed by the UFC in 2019. Over the next couple of years, he climbed the flyweight rankings and finally got his title shot against Deiveson Figueiredo. In 2021, Moreno shocked the world by submitting Figueiredo, becoming the first ever Mexican-born UFC champion. His emotional victory and underdog story won the hearts of fans everywhere, especially in Mexico, where he became a national hero. Known for his humility, kindness, and perseverance, Moreno's journey from a struggling kid in Tijuana to UFC gold is truly inspiring. From sleeping on the streets to holding championship belts, these fighters proved that no matter where you come from, hard work and perseverance can take you to the top. Their stories continue to inspire millions around the world. Who do you think has the most incredible rise to greatness? Let us know in the comments.